I'm Mark. I play in a band called Black Foxes. We've played all over the world and we're just about to release our second album. I wanted to push myself to kind of the limits with this album, to come away from it knowing that I've done absolutely everything. But there's something I've had to deal with which doesn't always make the lifestyle easy. Crohn's disease. It's pushed me to the limit, both physically and mentally, with no known cure. I'm here on the very edge. We'll find out later if I can do it. Can I do this? Every 30 minutes, someone is diagnosed with it in the UK. I'll chat to other people who have been affected by it and find out what's being done to help others like us.
Everyone that you meet has a different story of how they're dealing with it.
Yeah. You can meet my dog Taka as well.
What's happened? Well, I didn't know if you wanted to carry on Backseat Campers.
I'd love to carry on Backseat Campers.
On film?
Yeah, sure.
What's Backseat Campers?
It's just a club that we made up.
Exclusive members.
It's exclusive members club, but it's been a bit fractious. Is that right? It's been.
There's been a change in ownership, and we don't know how it's going to end.
We did make a pact that best friends forever.
Don't remember that one.
No, we made it.
Any signatures?
No contract on that.
You were sleeping at the time, but we made it. So this is just Cardiff to London, which is probably maybe one of the easiest journeys we've done on this trip. We had to do Bournemouth to Glasgow, Glasgow to Cardiff, which was a nightmare. So this whole doc's based around Crohn's disease, which is something I've had for about 7-8 years now. It affects people a lot differently. Anything from your gut all the way up to your throat. Mine's more like exhaustion based, so I just get really exhausted. I find it really hard to kind of get out of bed in the mornings when I'm ill and stuff. But I'm on quite a heavy treatment for it, which happens every 6 weeks, which completely sorts my Crohn's out, but obviously you get like a lot of side effects from that, which is like hair loss and I don't know, skin problems and just nasty things really. But it makes the Crohn's all good. The long-term side effects, they have no idea what they are, and like you sign these waivers that's kind of hilarious because it's like side effects of death, which isn't really a side effect, but there you go. It's very intense stuff like that. I literally eat whatever I want. I eat way too much on the road. I think near the end of my treatments, I always just like lose appetite and stuff. I always lose weight. So at the end, I have to be a little bit careful, just eat a bit healthier. But this is like mid-cycle, so just eat whatever I want, which is great.
So what have you got at the moment?
Like a beef chili and a tea, which is great. That's gonna come out later. At its worst, I think it's I was gonna say stool. That's even worse. Blood in your shit, in your poop. You can lose quite a lot of blood. It's a real worry because there isn't a cure for it. So the only thing they can do is suppress it.
I was 21 when I was diagnosed. I'm 28 now. I thought it was something only old people got, but I've met some guys and girls my age who are on the same treatment. You kind of get through it together. This run was one of the biggest tours we've ever done. It tested me a bit. We had to pull a show in Plymouth because I just wasn't well enough to perform. But it's something we had to do so we could play the last gig of the tour, London's Alexandra Palace.
I don't actually know where we are. It is literally in the middle of nowhere, so we're in we're into the 3rd week now, so we're going a bit stir crazy. It's hard to put in the time at the end of the day, but I wanted to push myself to kind of the limits with this album, to come away from it knowing that I've done absolutely everything. Shivering alone, the grass isn't glowing. You coddled my mind, that covers my heart, covers my soul. I wanted to prove myself wrong and people around me that were like, oh man, like, you're not gonna be able to do this for much longer. Like my consultant says, you know, you've got the worst possible profession for your condition.
And I've always been like that from a young age, you know, when teachers said I couldn't do something, I'd always go out and do it just to prove people wrong. So I wanted to kind of prove myself wrong, because all those doubts that was going on in my mind at the time. Oh, take me home. Oh, take me home. It's really weird to talk about because I'm so different now. Like, every day has been so much fun here. And I can't really remember a time it was like that before. I can't remember a time I had fun playing music, which is so dark. But I knew there was a bigger picture. I knew that I had to keep pushing through those sort of days because I felt like I would get to the stage, and I have. And yeah, I'm stoked on that. This home. I can't think of a time that I've ever let the illness win, to be honest. And I think that's all it is. We've got album 2 in the can now, and we've still got one more headline show for the year. Before that, I've arranged to meet someone else with Crohn's. Finding out I had the condition was one of the scariest experiences of my life. I want to see if it's still like that now. Sarah's a 22-year-old nurse. She was only told she had it a few months ago.
Everyone that you meet has a different story of how they're treating, like dealing with it, because there is no cure. So it's kind of like that experiment stage of what's going to work for me. I've been having symptoms really probably from when I first started university back in 2012.
Okay,
Kind of looking back now, knowing what the symptoms of Crohn's is.
Sure.
I had that kind of epigastric, acid reflux, sore stomach symptoms probably for years.
Okay.
This isn't my real hair now.
Okay.
But my hair was very similar to this, and it would be literal handfuls of hair coming out every time I'd shower.
I put it off for years, and I had all these really bad symptoms, and I was convinced it was cancer. That's what I thought it was. I didn't know anything about. I literally knew nothing about Crohn's.
You know, I meet family and family friends and whatever, and I say, "Oh yeah, I've just been diagnosed with Crohn's." Most people are like, "Oh, I know so and so that has this." And the next question is for me is, well, what treatment are they on? What have they done to, you know, make their life a bit easier for themselves?
The thing that I found is the length of time it takes to find what works for you. It took me about six years to find a treatment that actually worked properly.
I look back now, and from my background, you think, how silly I was.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done something about it earlier.
I'm sure there's so many people out there that probably have early onset symptoms that reacted exactly the same way as we did. And if any advice I could give to anyone would be to go early. My blood tests, they came back and they were just shocked of how I'd lasted that long.
Yep.
Basically telling me I should be kind of dead.
2 weeks of vomiting and diarrhea.
Yeah.
And their first question was, and you didn't do anything about it?
Yeah. With my friends, because it was hard to describe what I had. And that's when I think like the whole anxiety and depression came, because I couldn't go out anyway, really. But it was hard to explain what was going on. I didn't really know what was going on myself. I had no one around me that understood it. So I kind of just stayed in.
Never had any social anxiety, nothing like that. As soon as I was diagnosed, put on the steroids, whether I'm putting it down to the drugs themselves. But those last 2 days in hospital, I definitely had panic attacks.
I think it's brave to be able to talk about mental health issues like that and realise that so many people are probably thinking exactly the same things. So it's good to realise that it's not a weakness. It's actually just very
human.
Normal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's real. Talking to Sarah made me think about how far I've come. I'm now in what doctors call remission. It basically means my Crohn's isn't cured, but the symptoms are for the most part under control. But remission is often a tightrope balancing good health with illness. Like family and friends and label and management here, we love playing London. I think it's probably our favourite place to play. I've been in remission for, I feel like it's been a year. And 2 days ago, that just went. And it's really scary, to be honest, because you get really comfortable with being healthy. Like, being healthy for me is something I'm not used to feeling. All like the anxiety and my mental health was great. I was doing all the shows, like recording was amazing, and just randomly, I haven't even been busy, just randomly 2 days ago, just all of that kind of went away, and it's a bit terrifying. I mean, it's pretty gross, but we're doing a Crohn's documentary, so as well, but I've lost a hell of a lot of weight, a lot of blood in 2 days, like a lot, and that's what is so fucking annoying about this disease. You feel so safe and then it just shows you that it's in control of you, and I cannot stand that. When we started this documentary and stuff, it was a documentary to show you how you can do it, and now I'm here on the very edge. We'll find out later if I can do it. I was reliant on having that adrenaline to take me through the whole show. About 3 songs in, I realised adrenaline just wasn't enough for this one. I basically just had nothing else to give, so I needed to get out, get some fresh air, to see if I could come back and finish the show. And they probably thought like, this is the classic rock and roll encore. He's gone off, coming back on. That was not the intention. We hate encores. The last thing I wanted to do that day was to leave the house and be under bright lights and to play a show, but I can't really describe it better than that. It is just that darkness feels safer at that point when you're that exhausted. That was one of the hardest things I've had to do, for sure. I don't know what's going to happen because I haven't actually been in this position before. I've never been hospitalised from it. And saying I'm hospitalised is, I guess, a little extreme because I'm going to go home tonight, but I do need to fix this. So what fixing it is, I literally have no idea. So I guess I'll fill you in when we film next time because this is all new to me, which is why it's fucking scary and why it's really, really annoying. Because I have literally no idea, but I can feel it, and it's really hard to explain to people when, you know, you put on a brave face and you're able to do this stuff, how it is making you feel so different and disconnected from everything. So I don't know what the answer is, but I'm going to make damn sure that we fix it very soon so we can just carry on like normal. What they think probably happened is when you do have these treatments, because it's an immune suppressant, if you come into it with any sort of virus or flu or cold or anything, it obviously will heighten all of that because you don't have an immune system. So what probably happened is I came in with a bug that wasn't picked up, and then it hit me the show day. So it's called inflicted, which is like an hour to 2 hour just like drip that's just fed through the cannula. A lot of people do build up like an intolerance to it, like an immunity to it. So I don't think anything bad happens, but it means that the drug won't work anymore because the body's become resistant to it. So that fortunately hasn't happened to me yet. It's kind of sad sometimes because I've seen it where people have reacted really badly to the drug and they've come back and nothing's really working, and you can see that they're visibly deteriorating. That constant sense of not knowing if or when treatments might or might not work can be a pretty hard thing to deal with. It's something I've spoken to my specialist about quite a lot.
At the beginning of this journey, how do you not feel like everything's experimental? And as doctors, we actually have some degree of certainty about what's safe and what's not. These drugs are well tested and tried, and we can predict what the average response will be to these drugs. But of course, if you're the person having the average quoted at you isn't very helpful. What you want to know is how it's going to affect you. At the moment, we don't have a magic wand, one drug, one treatment. What we do have are lots of new drugs and different treatments coming into our toolkit, which will put the disease into long-term remission.
No, you can taste it, which is weird. Doesn't really feel like anything. It does make you feel a bit weird though. I was extremely anxious when I first started getting it because it was giving me panic attacks, but I just sort of realised it's probably just, it's a heavy drug going into my system, so it's going to make me feel a bit weird. It doesn't really feel, I mean, you don't feel it going in as such. I've not gone around tasting batteries, but what I imagine batteries would taste like. It's quite acidic.
There needs to be standards right across the country so that all patients have equal access to the same sort of service. And what we try and do is not just to have a single doctor working with a single patient, but having a whole team to support that patient. You feel very much on your own when you're given any diagnosis, but being told that you've got a condition that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life is really quite difficult, particularly for young people whose lives are very immediate. The important things in life when you're young is what's happening on the next day, possibly the next week, but certainly it's not going to be what's happening in the next decade, the next 20 years, the next 30 years. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to unpick the threads of what is the fundamental underlying cause. I think we are expanding our knowledge, and we're keen to both predict and then be more personalised about the way we deliver medicine for individual patients. So it's not one size fits all. We need to be clear with our patients that the first goal is to get them well and not allow their disease to dominate the best parts of their life.
This is Ellie, my girlfriend, who usually comes to have my infusions with me. So she's seen me through all sort of cycles of this drug. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
So we just finished off the infusion. We're just heading back to my mum's house. I just thought we could pick up the dog and just go for a walk around the local park. I always like to sort of clear my head after infusion because it's quite intense. Hello. All right. Hello, puppy! Hey! You wanna go walkies? Hey? Yeah. Oh. She had a wash for the camera. Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
See you in a bit. See ya. Oh.
Making this documentary has taught me Crohn's isn't going away. Not only for me, but as a problem for the whole country. But that doesn't mean it's something we should be embarrassed to talk about. If anything, it means we should be talking about it more.
Come on. You just can't hear anything. It's beautiful. With such like a intense job and lifestyle where you're constantly on your phone and constantly having to answer to emails, and in big cities and stuff, just having this is just so nice, I think. And you're the same, aren't you? You've always.
I like to be proud.
Yeah. So I think massively important. But yeah, I always try and come to a place like this after an infusion, just to unwind a bit. One of the very first dates I ever went on when I was like, I don't know, 14 years old or something. Oh. Mum was like, oh, it'd be nice if you took the dog out for a walk with her. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Took the dog out, picked up the poo, and then it was like an hour-long walk, and then realised by the end I'd just been holding the poo the whole time whilst trying to have a date. That was my first date.
How'd that go?
Not well. Never saw her again.
If you think you might have it, please go and get help. If you do have it, of course, take it seriously, but don't let it control your life.
We almost, I'd say, do more because of it, because it just makes you want to be a bit more spontaneous and stuff. And I'd say don't use it as like a negative, just, yeah, use it to push yourself and be like, well, what can I do with this condition? And it would be really easy to be stagnant, but because I got diagnosed with this disease, it makes me really want to go off and push myself to go and do more.